Hey everyone, my name is the Theme Park Evangelist. Well, it is time officially for another My College Days vlog. So, I am very happy right now because of the fact that, for the most part, my desk is finally complete. So, I got my gaming computer, obviously still set up where I want it. I got a mouse finally for the computer, and as of tonight, I also have a mouse pad for my computer as well, so I can finally uh, move my mouse around on it without having to worry about doing this number down here, which is very frustrating. Trust me, trying to do this this makes my life so much easier. You have no idea. And then, of course, to give my rooms some more personality, I decided to add on some pictures. So I've got my Easter picture from last year. I've also got one of my favorite pictures of Katie and I directly in front of me. And then to the immediate right of that is my degree, my associate's degree, to remind myself that I am not a failure. Because often I feel like that, even though I don't share that on YouTube. So anyway, I wanted to take this opportunity to go ahead and finally talk to you guys about a topic I've been actually behind on about a week or two now. I am officially home, if you couldn't tell, considering how white the room is. And since this is not my place, it's not like I can brighten it up or anything. I'll have to wait until Katie and I get our first place together before we go and do that. Can't wait for that to happen. But anyway, yeah, I am very happy to be home, and I'm very happy to be able to sleep in my own bed again, and I can definitely feel my energy draining. So let's get this going. You may not be able to tell, but trust me, I feel it. So, first of all, we're going to be talking about, finally, what all three campuses were like, and I'm going to actually break it down for you guys one at a time. So we're going to start talking about the downtown Lake Wales campus. Then we're going to talk about a campus that doesn't exist anymore, which was the one that was on US 60. Then we're going to be talking about the Winter Haven campus, and then finally the Airside Center, or Airside campus, aka Lakeland campus. So we're just going to go through it one at a time. I'm not just going to tell you where it was, but I'm also going to tell you kind of like what it was like, what it used to be, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So let's start with the very first place that I ever technically visited, which was the Winter Haven campus. I know that might be a shock to you guys. Like, you would think, David, you have had to visit the Lake Wales campus first. So the reason why I visited the Winter Haven campus first is because years ago when I was in middle school, there was an event called Polk State Fall Fest. It was every third Saturday of October. So, looking at my calendar here, and it still is to this day, it would actually be this Saturday, so the 19th. And back then, there was a non-for-profit organization. They were raising money to provide for people who were like critically ill and, you know, better. I guess the best way to put it is like they were near death's door. And Polk State back then was a community college, so back then Polk State was known as Polk Community College. And they didn't have a problem with it. So they were set up camp there, and they had some stuff going on. They even had a cakewalk, and all that money was going towards the unfortunate. And this was all at their main campus. So the best way to put it is, it was almost like your standard university, just minus the dorms. In some ways, I would even compare it to where my brother goes to school at the University of Cincinnati, but once again, minus the dorms, and just a little bit smaller. So you've got some big buildings that were kind of scattered around throughout the campus. Um, Certain buildings were dedicated to certain uh, teachings or whatever. So, like, there was one building that was dedicated just to nursing, and I felt like that was the busiest of all the buildings in the campus. There was one building that was just all math and science, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of like two in one. I remember my brother was going to that building back then because I used to take him to school for quite a while there. Um, he went to Polk State and Warner University down further on US 27, Lake Wales, Florida, as well. Also, there was a building dedicated just to the arts, so English, reading, Spanish. That was my primary building because that was my degree, or that's what I got my degree in. And I can even show you guys. I'll just, you know what? I'm just going to show you guys just so you can say that have you seen it. So yes, I officially have my associate's degree from this place right here because that is actually where I officially graduated from. I could have gone to that graduation and I probably would have received some more stuff because of the fact that I did graduate with honors. I have a GPA 4.0, and I did graduate from Phi Theta Kappa with honors. Phi Theta Kappa is the highest and most prestigious honor society in the world. That is pretty impressive that I got that. But, you know, it's more impressive that I even have a degree. And it's got my name first, middle, and last. But, you know, that reminds me that I am not a failure, no matter what the devil tells me. So, always very encouraging. But anyway, yeah, that was the one building I did spend a lot of time in, and that's where their library was. That's also where I took my college success class. Honestly, that professor was an interesting person, but I'm not going to talk about him really because, let's face it, it was a class I had to take, and that's all there was to it. And the professor didn't even care about the class, and we're just going to leave it at that. So, there was also another building called the Student Center. So it wasn't even the Student Success Center, it was the Student Center. So they had computers. It was a good sized building because they had to have a cafeteria in it. They had tables. They had another library in there. Um, the cafeteria was a decent size, and you know, you would see students everywhere just kind of walking around. You would even see students just hanging around outside. There was another area just outside the student center where students could just sit and talk or eat. And I really did try to get to know the students there, but unless you were part of their clique, they really just didn't care. And I tried for like a month, and then I forget this. I'm not gonna even try anymore because it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, that nobody was putting forth the same effort that I was, and I was like, you know what? If I'm not gonna get the same effort that I'm putting forward, then I'm just gonna let God do the rest. Or I'm just gonna keep trying, but I'll let God help me as He sees fit. And honestly, a lot of the problem with that campus is a lot of the kids are kept to themselves there, and a lot of the people there are generally in their late teens to mid 20s. So I wasn't surprised, and I was used to being around a much more mature group. So that's honestly where I'm going to be heading to eventually. And I forgot to mention in the student center, that's where the bookstore was. I spent a lot of time in there. That's also where a lot of my money went, besides to the admissions office, because that was the only college campus where the bookstore was. And I did learn after a couple of years that there was an offsite bookstore that did sell Polk State College material. However, though, they didn't. Well, I shouldn't say sell it, but they. Well, I mean, they did sell it, but they also rented it out too. but they didn't charge astronomical fees like Polk State was. So let's just put it this way: Polk State College, for one semester of college, you're looking at least $500. $500. Like, what the crap is that? But you go to the offsite campus, which was closer to where I used to work, and you were only looking at maybe paying $300. I mean, come on, $200 less. That's a no-brainer question right there. And I didn't even know about that place until like 2 years in. I'm like, where have I been? So of course I started going there after a while. I was like, yeah, you better believe it. And not to mention that they rented stuff out, so I could even get it even cheaper, like $250, like half the price. I was like, this is great. So yeah, Polk State started losing some money from me, and I was very thankful. I had a friend that worked in admissions or something to that extent at that college, and she actually helped me get a grant towards books. So one semester, I didn't have to pay for books at all. Like I had $500 worth of a grant. I have a $500 grant. I just put towards books. I was like, yes, because I just couldn't keep affording to spend all this money on books and classes. Like I literally spent so much money in my life just on books and classes. I would say at least 10 grand. Like that college was not cheap. And yet people are complaining about how expensive some of these universities were. It's like, yeah, that degree was not cheap. The only time that it actually got more affordable was when Meyer started covering the rest of it, and I never got a final bill or anything because obviously Meyer paid it all in full. So I'm like, hallelujah. So yes, thank you, Meyer. Thank you, God, for just allowing me to even have a degree in the first place, and the fact that it's over and done with. It's right in front of me. And now I'm good to go. A lot of people that went to that college, they would eat over at Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A was aware that a lot of people that went to that college were learning to become nurses because I'll be honest with you guys, Winter Haven needs a lot of nurses. Winter Haven needs a lot of doctors. The nursing program is the most difficult to get into because of the fact that there's so many people that want to become a nurse in Winter Haven because it's going to be one of the best jobs. When the criminal justice program and the nursing program are the biggest, are the you'll find more people taking those two classes specifically at Polk State and then going off to seek careers in that field in Polk County than anything else because they're the only decent paying jobs in Polk County. It's pretty sad. I mean, outside of those two fields, your best bet is grocery, Legoland, restaurant, and that honestly is about it. So you can understand why most people want to become a nurse of some sort because you're at least going to be making about $20 an hour. And you have to be making at least $20 an hour to survive these days. Not like back when our parents or whatever were young, and $20 an hour was like, oh my word, that's a lot. So yeah, Chick-fil-A down in Winter Haven actually is familiar with the fact that I started talking about it, and then I got distracted with the fact that there's so many people going to Polk State in the medical program, and every Thursday they say, hey, if you wear your scrubs and Chick-fil-A will give you a free meal. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty nice, actually. So at least Chick-fil-A can afford it. At least that particular Chick-fil-A does it. That one is Christian owned. I know that one is because I have seen the owner of that Chick-fil-A at many Winter Haven Christian School graduation ceremonies over the years. And I think that is really neat that he's an owner, or he's a Christian, and of course, Winter Haven Christian School is definitely Christian. But anyway, so the Winter Haven campus of Polk State College always intimidated me just because of the fact that it's got so many massive buildings. But, at the end of the day, there were some nice professors there. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say there's probably like 2,000 students there. That doesn't seem like a lot, but to some people, that's still like, oh my. But wait till you hear this. So I found out about the downtown Lake Wales campus on Central Avenue, and the very first time I went there, I was surprised how small it was. It was only 3 stories, officially, but technically only 2 stories. Apparently, it was an old jail. That's kind of creepy. So I had gone over there to go to the registrar's office, admissions office, whatever you want to call it, and you first come in, and it's got a beautiful lobby. It's got really nice staircase that leads you directly to the classrooms. All the classrooms are upstairs. You can either go left or right. There's literally less than 10 classrooms on the second floor, and that's it. There is a student success center on the very first floor. I'm not talking about the main floor. I'm talking about the first floor. So if you want to get technical, the third floor is where all the classrooms are, and the second floor is where the admissions office is. That's also where another room I was never allowed into was, and I believe that was where the professor's lounge was. That's where they went to go make their copies and all that fun stuff. So I never got to go in there, but I always knew it was there. And then the first floor was where the Student Success Center was, so that's where they had all their computers. That's where their college entrance exam testing center was. That's where their tutors were. And honestly, that was about it. But get this, only 200 students roughly attend that campus. 200. That is nothing. I was like, dang, that is a tiny campus. But what really impressed me was the fact that there were quite a few classes that were offered at that campus. I was very impressed. I would say 75% of my classes were actually there because a lot of their classrooms they were able to just reuse and reuse and reuse. And I was just like, wow. And a lot of the professors, they didn't just teach at Winter Haven, they taught at Lake Wales. I mean, it is possible to find a time of the day when one classroom isn't being used. Like, even though you literally just use that classroom like the previous semester for another class, you can use that same classroom again for another class, a completely different semester. It's kind of funny how that works. You can even use that same exact classroom earlier that day, turn around, come back later on in the day for a completely different class. Now, here's something really creepy. When I was going to that college, I was taking a class with a coworker. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that kind of bothered me. I was like, shouldn't I not see you outside of work, except for maybe bumping into you randomly in public? But to take a class with you is just like, I don't know how I feel about that. So that was kind of weird. The next campus I'm going to talk to you guys about, I only really took one class here, but this campus unfortunately eventually went bankrupt. As Polk State could not afford to keep paying for it. That was the sad part. And this is the same campus that Benjamin Carson came and did a presentation at. So, not too far from where I used to live on US 60, there was a big building. building is completely gone now. I don't even know if Lake Willow's Medical Center is still there. I didn't notice. And if it was still there, I'm surprised I didn't notice. But honestly, considering it was a shabby hospital, I wouldn't be surprised that that's gone too. Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't think it was there. But I know for sure that the that particular campus gone now. I mean, they've completely gutted it out and probably turned it into something different for all I know. It's sad, but at one point, yes, there was a beautiful building there, and there was probably about 10 classrooms there. And, from the short time I was there, one semester, I came in and my environmental science lab was right there in that classroom. And we had quite a few supplies over there. It was in a somewhat decent location. It was still close to home, and this one I couldn't just walk to or bike ride to, unfortunately, because of where it was, but it was still close to home. I liked the other one better because of the fact that it was in a much quieter location and the fact that I could walk or bike ride there if I needed to. But overall, I really liked both of those campuses. Obviously, the other one was only used for rare occasions, so it was kind of like a sister location to the other location. But then you've also got your airside campus. So the airside campus probably has about 1,000 students going there. There were times when I couldn't find any classes available whatsoever in Lake Wales, and they were either available in Winter Haven or Lakeland. And sometimes I couldn't even find classes whatsoever available in even Winter Haven, and they were only available in Lakeland. A lot of the online classes are taught from Lakeland. Some of them are taught from Winter Haven, granted, but most of them are taught from Lakeland. I don't know why. So I had taken this one class online through the Lakeland campus, and the professor was a complete buttwad. I'm so sorry to use that word, but he was. Um, I was actually watching Logan with my dad during spring break, so we were all on spring break at the time, and I just happened to be checking on my class, and I logged on to www.polk.edu, and my class was missing. I was like, what? I was like, I swear I just looked at this yesterday and it was there and now it's not there. But I managed to contact the professor, so I was like, what happened to my class? So, like, it was there, but it was like, it was considered dropped. And he goes, oh, I did you a favor. I dropped your class because you're at an F and I figured you weren't going to come back at this point, so I just went ahead and dropped you. That was not his responsibility. If I wanted to drop it, I would have dropped it myself. Because he just basically prevented me from getting my refund. And I've dropped classes before, but that's my choice. And I told him off. I was like, how dare you? You do not drop my class without my permission. Well, your GPA would have suffered anyway. I mean, he just kept making up excuses after excuses. I was like, I don't care. I ripped him to shreds on my professor, and I think I let him know that too, and he didn't even care. I was like, no, never again. I was so mad. I went right to my dad. I had just gotten back from watching Logan. I was like, this guy. So I did go and see this actual campus at least one time just to say I seen it. And I think I did try talking to him, and I did try to talk some sense into him because I really wanted to talk to this guy and let him know how upset I was and how he was wrong. I don't remember how the whole situation went, but I mean we're talking years ago. But the point is, I did drive over there, and I was like, wow, this is a really beautiful campus. And of course, the guy was still as stubborn as ever, and he was still being an idiot, and I was just like, whatever. But At least I made the effort to drive all the way over there. Honestly, from what I remember of the campus, it's in a really weird area. Once again, it's kind of in between Highland City and Lakeland. Highland City is a smaller version of Lakeland, but it's still a busier area. The campus is a good size. It's got some bigger buildings. A lot of it is, outside like Winter Haven. You have to walk around to get where you need to go. Um, I didn't see a whole lot of students when I was there because I think I had gone during spring break, so a lot of the students were on spring break at the time. But it definitely seemed like a decent campus. I definitely would have attended there. A few classes if it had been a little closer. I think that was my biggest problem. It was just a little bit further away from me than the Winter Haven campus, and they didn't have as much to offer there as the Winter Haven campus did. But it was still beautiful in its own sense. Um, like keep in mind, I only went there one time, but still, I was still impressed by the campus. Not impressed with the professor. Never would take that class again from that professor. But if I, could go back in time, I would definitely um, have given that campus more than one chance. I think I would have definitely tried to make the drive out there. I was in a different time back then. I wasn't wanting to drive as much as I do now. I didn't feel like there was a reason to because of the fact that I literally had everything I needed um, right there. And I think the other reason why I was wanting to go to the Winter Haven campus so much is because of the fact that at that point, or the majority of the time I was going to Polk State College, I was borrowing my mom's car, and it was my responsibility to go and pick up my mom. Now, once I finished up with Polk State College, I mean, or once I got my own car, I should say, let me reiterate that. Yes, I easily could have started going to the Lakeland campus, but by that point, I had already fallen in love with the Winter Haven campus, and I already was enjoying a lot of the classes there, and I already liked quite a few professors over there, and I didn't really recognize any of the professors at the Lakeland campus. Trust me, every single time I was registering for classes, and every single time I even went over the campus because the admissions office because I didn't always do all my registering online. Sometimes I would go over to the admissions office and I would ask, what do you have available? And I would often look and see what was available at the Lakeland campus, and they just didn't really have anything that interested me. That was the discouraging part. And I always felt like it was too far away. I mean, it was probably the same time frame wise, but distance is where it was like, that kind of thing. But I was a completely different person back then. I'll be honest with you. At this point in my life, I've just learned that sometimes you have to be willing to drive that extra distance just to make it work. Like this weekend, did I really want to drive back and forth from Williamstown to Florence or Oakbrook? No. Did I have to? Unfortunately, I did. I still had to go take care of my parents' cats. I still had to work. I didn't overly like having to put 50 miles on my car every single day, but I did it. So it's something I've learned over time. Back then, I was so catered, I was so babied. I had literally had everything there within arm's reach, and I just didn't really feel like I had to drive as far. I was like, why should I have to? I have everything I need right here, and I can definitely see that with TJ, but I've also seen him starting to reach out and just like, you know what, if I have to drive, I have to drive. Because stuff is starting to expand out in Florida. A lot of stuff is starting to become further out than it used to be. And and TJ is like all the way on Indian Lake Estates. It's not like he's back in. his old community anymore. So he's starting to learn that he has to start driving to get where he needs to go. And I'm kind of learning that now too, being out in Dry Ridge. So, I was very fortunate. I was very blessed when I was living in Lake Wales, living with my parents. I had everything I ever wanted. Then I moved to Oak Brook, and first I moved to Ellesmere, and I didn't drive necessarily as much other than going to Kings Island. And then I moved to Oak Brook. Once again, I wasn't driving that much. I mean, other than driving up to Cincinnati. And then I had to move out here, and now I'm really learning the hard way that sometimes you have to drive just a little bit more than you're used to just to make things work. I mean, this week I have to start doing DoorDash. I really don't want to. It's unnecessary wear and tear and mileage on my car and Katie's, but I have to if I need to be able to pay my bills and have some extra money in my account. I'm very frustrated about it, but these things happen, sadly enough. Anyway, at the end of the day, I really hope you guys got a good taste of what my college campuses were like, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week and my next college days vlog, which at this time I'm really not sure yet, but we'll figure it out when the time comes. I'll see you guys tomorrow or later on today for my next vlog on the history of the theme park evangelist. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.